Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. And today we're tackling this conflict in Lebanon.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere in the headlines right now.
Right.
And you might be thinking, oh, another news cycle, another conflict.
Yeah, you get numb to it.
Exactly.
See.
But this one's different.
Yeah, this one has global implications.
This is the kind of situation that could have serious implications for the entire world. And I think that's why we wanted to dig into it.
Yeah, it's true. What's happening in Lebanon right now, it's not just a regional conflict. It's like all this stuff tangled up together, historical grievances and geopolitics and ideology.
Right, so it's already a powder keg, but then you throw in...
It's very unstable.
Yeah. So, okay, let's break down exactly why this conflict matters. Even if you're someone who's listening who's like, I don't live there, I don't have family there, why should I care?
Right.
And I think our sources point to a few mainstream explanations for what's happening.
Right.
We're seeing these decades of tension between Israel and Lebanon kind of boil over, fueled in part by Hezbollah's role there. And then you've got this battle for regional influence, with global powers kind of taking sides and adding fuel to the fire.
And we can't forget about the internal stuff, too, like what's going on inside Lebanon's own political systems.
Right, it's all a mess.
It adds so many layers onto an already volatile situation.
Yeah. All of these factors combined create a very real fear of escalation. And I think that's what's really scary to a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this has the potential to draw in even more players.
Right.
And spiral out of control.
Yeah, it's like you pull on one thread and the whole thing unravels.
Exactly.
But there's another layer to this.
Okay.
And it's something that we really need to examine.
Okay.
Because it suggests that this conflict, as devastating as it is, could be exploited by some people who have a very specific vision for the future.
Okay.
And that is a one world order.
It's important to be clear when we talk about things like this because, we're not saying this is the absolute truth.
Of course not.
But you have to look at the historical parallels. And you can start to see why some people are saying this is what's going on.
Yeah, this is giving them flashbacks to other things.
Exactly.
So let's just, for the sake of this deep dive,
Okay.
let's entertain this one world order idea.
Okay.
What does that even mean? And why are people connecting it to the conflict in Lebanon?
Okay, so essentially the one world order theory is this idea that a single centralized authority would govern the entire world.
So everyone's ruled by the same group.
Yeah. And a lot of times they'll say it's for ending conflict and promoting stability.
Okay, sure.
And on the surface, that sounds pretty good to some people, right? Like peace and unity on a global scale. Sign me up.
Right. I mean, who doesn't?
But then it starts to get a little scary because how would that happen?
Right. How would they make that happen?
Yeah. And who would be in charge?
Who gets to make those decisions?
Exactly.
Who are they accountable to?
And that's where things get a little unnerving.
Right. It seems like a lot of power.
It is.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like that old saying, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So how does this tie back to the situation in Lebanon?
Well, people who believe in this theory often point to historical examples of chaos being used to make these major shifts in global power.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, for example, look at extremist groups in post-World War I Germany.
Okay.
The economic and social turmoil after the war created this power vacuum that groups like the Nazi Party exploited to seize control.
And there's a more recent example of that, too, with the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
After the Soviet-Afghan War and then the U.S. withdrawal, it left this void
Absolutely.
where the Taliban could come back in and take over.
Exactly. And that's what this theory is suggesting, that certain powerful individuals or groups might be intentionally creating chaos to push their own agendas.
So you're saying that the conflict in Lebanon, with all its complexities, could be manipulated to advance this one world order agenda?
It's definitely something to think about.
That's a chilling thought.
It is. A lot of people are saying this is what's going on, so it's worth considering.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. A major conflict erupts in a strategically important region, causing widespread instability and fear.
Right. And that fear makes people crave security and stability.
Yeah.
And when you have that, what happens?
And that's when the idea of a single powerful entity stepping in to restore order might start to sound appealing to people.
Exactly.
Even if it means sacrificing some individual liberties along the way.
Exactly.
So if we're going to go with this one world order thing,
Okay.
how would that even work? I mean, how would this new world order function?
See, that's when it gets really interesting and kind of disturbing when you start to think about the role technology plays into all this. We're talking next level surveillance like we've never seen, data collection control.
All in the name of security and stability, right?
Exactly.
But it's like, we're always trading off freedom for security, aren't we? I mean, are we really ready to give up that much privacy just so we can feel a little safer?
And that's a great question because it leads us to another piece of intel that we got that seems totally unrelated to Lebanon.
Okay,
But it's not.
I'm intrigued.
Our sources found some interesting stuff about this suburb in southern Lebanon,
Okay.
where they're basically testing out all this advanced surveillance tech.
So we went from like global conflict to a suburb with cameras.
Right, but it's all connected.
Okay.
So imagine this, you're walking down the street and facial recognition software is tracking your every move.
It's giving me Black Mirror vibes.
Totally. They're watching what you do online. Algorithms are predicting your behavior.
And this is happening right now.
Right now in this suburb, and they're calling it like a model city for the future.
A model city for who, though? That's what I want to know. Like, it sounds efficient. I'll give it that.
But super efficient.
But also incredibly creepy.
Well, yeah.
Like, I'm not sure I want to live in that world.
I mean, that's the thing about these smart cities, right?
Yeah.
On paper, it sounds great.
Less crime, better traffic.
Yeah, they promise you the world.
But they don't tell you how they're going to do it.
Exactly. And at what cost this much surveillance could easily be used to control people.
Oh, totally. It's like they could just decide who gets to do what and when.
Right. And if you speak out against it,
You're in trouble.
Exactly. So you have this suburb, there's like a crystal ball into the future, and it makes you wonder, is this what all cities will be like?
That's a scary thought. You know, we've talked about the conflict in Lebanon, this one world order idea, and now this hyper-surveilled suburb. Are these things connected, or is this just a coincidence?
That's what we have to figure out. And while we can't say for sure, there are some arguments that this is all part of a larger pattern.
Okay, I gotta hear this. Lay it on me. How did these pieces fit together?
We got to start with this idea of order coming from chaos.
Okay.
People who believe in this one world order theory, they say this is how it always goes.
Like historically.
Yeah, like throughout history, when things are unstable and there's conflict, people want solutions.
Right, because they're scared.
Exactly. They want someone or something to come in and fix it and make them feel safe again.
And that's where someone with a plan can really take advantage of the situation.
Right. They swoop in and offer the solution, but it's not free.
There's always a catch.
Always. You give up a little freedom for a little security.
And in this case, it might be a lot of freedom.
It might be. And if you're trying to set up a one world order, you need people to be okay with giving up their power.
Okay, that makes sense.
So what do? You create a crisis so bad that people are begging for someone to take over.
It's like they manufacture the problem and then offer the solution.
Exactly.
And that's where that tech comes in that we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they maintain control.
It's a feedback loop.
Yeah.
Fear leads to control. Control leads to more fear.
And around and around we go.
And you can't forget about the media because they control the narrative.
Oh, yeah. They tell us what to think about all this.
If they can spin the story the right way, they can control how people react. And it's a tactic as old as time. They've been doing this forever, using propaganda and misinformation to control people.
It's true. I mean, look at totalitarian regimes throughout history, or how about those online campaigns that just spread misinformation and distrust like it's nothing?
Exactly. They want us fighting amongst ourselves.
So we're too distracted to see what's really going on.
Exactly. And it makes you think, even if this whole one world order thing is just a theory,
Yeah.
it makes you realize that there's some big questions we need to be asking about the world right now and about where we're headed.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling, to say the least.
Absolutely.
So what do we do? Where do we even go from here? If this is the path we're on, how do we navigate this crazy world?
That's the million-dollar question. And there's no easy answer. But I think awareness is a good place to start,
Like, we need to be aware of what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can't just accept everything at face value.
We can't just be passive.
No, we got to question everything, think critically, and look for different perspectives, especially these days with all the information overload out there.
Especially with social media. I mean, it's like they're deciding what we see and hear.
Absolutely. Algorithms controlling everything. It's scary.
So we have to be careful. We have to be really discerning about the information we consume, right?
Absolutely. And get your news from different sources.
Yeah.
Don't just stay in an echo chamber.
Yes. Talk to people who think differently than you do.
Have those tough conversations.
Exactly. And, on a more practical level, we have to be aware of the choices we're making every day. The tech we use, the data we share, all of it matters.
It all adds up. I mean, if you care about privacy, You have to support companies and organizations that feel the same way.
Absolutely. And be mindful of what you're putting out there online, because once it's out there, it's out there.
And stay informed about how technology is being used, because it's always changing.
It's moving faster than we can keep up with.
It really is. But the point is, we have a choice. We can be informed and engaged, or we can be passive.
We can be swept along with whatever's happening, or we can actually try to steer the ship a little bit.
Exactly.
Well said. I think that's a good place to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot today, from the conflict in Lebanon to this idea of a one world order to the role technology is playing in all of this.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, but I really hope that this conversation has inspired you to look a little deeper, to ask some of those tough questions, and to engage with the world in a way that feels meaningful to you.
Because at the end of the day, the future isn't set in stone.
We're still writing the story.
We have the power to change things.
Absolutely. So let's make it a good one.